RotoGrinders. Welcome to the NFL Pre-Lock Show here at RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. Blenderhead, Blender HD. You're going to follow me on Twitter, and we'll be taking a look at the 3-game DraftKings NFL wildcard slate, as well as the 4-game FanDuel slate. So we're leading up to lock. We got 29 minutes left to go. Post your questions in the YouTube chat. Hit that thumbs up button. Give me that like. We're all drunk. We're flying around on the screen. It's fine. Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Post your questions. Dean has a prediction on the usage projections for the show. It's wrong. I'm not playing this NFL DFS slate, right? I have props. I have tons of props. But, I'm just kind of filling in here, kind of directing traffic with TJ Zwarych and Tim. And let's get down to brass tacks and break it down. We're going position by position on DraftKings for the 3-game slate, which includes, remember, the dog remembers. The Buffalo-Pittsburgh game is on the DraftKings slate, right? FanDuel doesn't have the 4th game from tomorrow also, so it's a little bit different, but it's a little bit of the same. So at the quarterback position on DraftKings, our projections have Dak Prescott as the highest raw projected quarterback, obviously 28.75. But Tim, is this a position that we're really going to be spending up for on cash games, or is there enough value that we could actually play Dak Prescott?
Well, I think you could go both ways. I've narrowed it down to either Dak or Stafford. It really depends on the value at wide receiver that you want to do. Right now, I have Stafford as my cash game quarterback, but if you could find that 1,100, and I think you can do it, Dak would be your next guy. So Stafford is currently my cash game quarterback, but I'm really thinking about switching it to Dak because I think this is just such an amazing spot. They're so dominant at home, and it's just such an amazing spot for Dak. So it's an amazing spot for Stafford too, and he's $1,100 cheaper. But those two are your cash game consideration quarterbacks.
Is it any different on FanDuel compared to DraftKings? Because FanDuel typically on main slates, we don't mind spending up at quarterback because the salary cushion is a little bit easier there, and the differences between the prices. Like, are you playing Goff or Stafford on FanDuel, or are you still just playing Dak or even Josh Allen?
I'm actually going with Stafford on FanDuel, to be honest with you, just because DK has these wide receivers that are like close to min price, where FanDuel doesn't really have that. So it's tougher to get those punt guys at wide receiver on FanDuel. So I think I need to take the savings and go with Stafford on FanDuel.
TJ, obviously, we're playing quarterbacks with multiple pieces on their teams in GPPs. Does that dissuade you? Can you play on this slate tournament-wise? I know there's only 3 games on DraftKings, 4 games on FanDuel. Is there a world where a naked quarterback is acceptable, or are your quarterback decisions primarily guided by the wide receivers that you're playing?
100%. They'll be mostly by the receivers I'm playing. I think there are 2 situations where potentially a naked quarterback could be viable. One with Josh Allen. I think you could potentially run him as a contrarian thing to do in tournaments. I don't actually think he's going to be 20% owned. I think he's going to be lower than that. I think you could potentially run a naked Josh Allen. I'm not personally, I'm playing 20 lineups, and in the 3 Allen teams I have, it's still stacked up with three pass catchers. But I think you could. The one I'd actually be most tempted to run out naked, and I don't think it's crazy if you're running a bunch of lineups. This wasn't included in my 20 entry build, but looking at the ownership, I'm doing it now. I'm building 1. I think you can do naked Mason Rudolph and just say nobody he stacks up, nobody to stack him with does well enough. He only throws, maybe he runs a touchdown in and throws 1 touchdown, but you're able to load up on all the other expensive plays that you want to play on the slate if you're going with that. I think that's somewhat interesting if you're playing a whole bunch of lineups. I'm doing that in 1 of 21 now, so I'm definitely not advocating to do that in as a single entry or anything like that. I would kind of rank in the amount of I'm stacking. It's Stafford 1 for me, Prescott 2, Goff 3, Allen 4. I'm fading Jordan Love today. I'm not getting to him. I'm afraid of it, but I just have no idea who I would want to stack him with. They have 2 healthy tight ends that are going to get close to splitting the snaps. They have 5 healthy receivers now who are going to be splitting the snaps. And so I don't hate Jordan Love. I just have no idea who I'd stack him with. And so I'm just avoiding them.
Running back position. We got, I think, the top 3 on the board. Looking at our current NFL projections, Pollard, Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones. We have A.J. Dillon is out. So you have to figure that Aaron Jones is going to get a ball, especially in a playoff game, right?
Yeah.
That Aaron Jones is just he's going to be out there as long as the game is in question. And then on FanDuel, you could probably add Rashad White into the mix in that Tampa Bay Philadelphia game.
Yeah.
For cash games, TJ, I've been trying to kind of put together lineups. Unless you're willing to like significantly punt, I'm not sure. Can you fit on DraftKings Pollard, Kyron Williams, and Aaron Jones into your lineup, or is it the type of thing where you're choosing between Kyron Williams and playing 2 like very good wide receivers?
Yeah, I think you said TJ, but then Tim. Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you have to sacrifice one of those spots. And one guy that I really like on both sites that's cheap at the running back position is Jaylen Warren. This should be a really, really positive script for him. He's 5-1 on DraftKings. He's 5-6 on FanDuel. So I think he's in the cash game conversation. I'm definitely starting with Kyron and Aaron Jones. And then, I mean, obviously you can play Tony Pollard, but it's really tough if you want to play all these stud wide receivers. So I think you have to consider somebody like Jaylen Warren in a game where Pittsburgh should be trailing and Rudolph should be doing a lot of dump offs. So I really like Jaylen Warren in single entry or in cash games. But I think priority wise, Jones is 1 and Kyron is 2 in terms of your cash game running backs.
I have Jaylen Warren's overs for receptions and receiving yards. Of course, my number that I got 2 days ago or yesterday is likely off the board. Hopefully everyone jumped on board when they rescheduled the game, that you just hammered everything over because, everyone thought the game was going to be, if you saw what's outside in Buffalo today, yeah, that game probably wasn't going to have much scoring in it. Weather is not great tomorrow, but definitely better than today. TJ, in GPPs, is there that big of a difference between FanDuel and DraftKings other than Rashad White? Are you willing to take more of a shot? I think Aaron Jones and Kyron Williams and even Tony Pollard are the most reliable, right? I mean, like as far as the bulk of the work. And then you have guys like Gibbs and Montgomery for the Lions. You got Najee and Warren for the Steelers. You got James Cook. I'm assuming that people are going to be more likely to avoid the Pittsburgh Buffalo game. Do you have any interest in these other running backs or maybe even cheaper ones? I mean, I don't know if you could get past what I mentioned. If you pay up at running back and pay down at wide receiver, that will be a kind of different build. Are you more likely, TJ, to just eat the truck running backs and get different elsewhere? Or are you actually looking to get different at running back?
Yeah, I'm not trying to go super off the board with somebody like a Rico Dowdle, a backup, something like that. I'm going to be mainly sticking with these chalk guys. Outside of I do really like for tournaments, James Cook and David Montgomery. They're both projected for about 20% ownership right now. I don't think that stands for either of them. I think they're both going to be a little bit lower. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are currently projected for 5% different in ownership projections. That's never the case. Jahmyr Gibbs is always way higher than David Montgomery is. So I think Montgomery is going to be quite a bit lower. I do like him and James Cook quite a bit for tournaments. There's no difference on FanDuel and DraftKings for me on between the two sites, just because I don't want to play Rashad White. I don't want to play DeAndre Swift. So I'm not going to worry about either of those guys. Where I do want to backpedal a little bit though is actually at the quarterback position, because I did forget to mention on FanDuel, Baker Mayfield is my favorite tournament quarterback on the slate. We're projecting him for single-digit ownership. Philadelphia's pass defense is horrible. They've been horrible all season. Mayfield had a Q tag most of the week, and so I think that's going to keep people off of him even more. It's the last game of the slate. We know exactly who we want to stack him with. It's Mike Evans and it's Chris Godwin. Godwin is cheap enough that we can do the double stack. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are two of the, as we're pivoting into receiver here, they're two of the lower owned receivers on the slate. The Baker, Evans, Godwin stack is my favorite tournament stack on the slate.
Question in the chat. Feel free to post them. We got 19 minutes before lock. We'll be answering the bulk of them at the end. But Budho Jenkins asked about thoughts on a Warren and Harris lineup. I don't know if that TJ that I'm not
if
a big
I was
fan.
running,
I just want to highlight. Typically, I'm not a fan of playing running backs from teams with a 14.25 implied team total, let alone running two running backs from that team.
I think it's a bad idea, but I guess if you're making 150, you could possibly do it in a couple. But I don't like it.
If you're doing 150, you could maybe do it in a team where you have no other Bills and then you have Steelers defense in case something super crazy happens. Or you can maybe do it in a team that's a full Josh Allen stack that has Allen, Diggs, Shakir, Kincaid, and you're doing it that way. But still, I wouldn't do it.
Okay, let's go to wide receiver. Tim, the differences between the two sites, as you mentioned before, the difference between the price differences between the top wide receivers and the lowest wide receivers are much wider on DraftKings than it is on FanDuel. So we're talking about guys like Demarcus Robinson, Khalil Shakir, Jameson Williams, that level. FanDuel, they are cheaper, but they're only like 30%, 35% less than the guys like CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown and the Rams receivers. And then the other difference on FanDuel is that you have the Eagles Buccaneers game. So I think maybe Devonta Smith at 7,200. We're thinking just cash games here. Is your cash game lineup more likely, like you're playing? I mean, if you're playing at least one of CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown, if not both of them, right?
Yeah, you should really be playing both of them and then punting with one of those 3K wide receivers, like you mentioned, probably Demarcus Robinson. He rates out unbelievably well in all projection systems that I've looked at. He's going to be very, very highly owned, though, so be cautious in tournaments. But in cash games, it's Demarcus Robinson on DK. I don't think it's very close at all. And then you're going up to CD and Amon-Ra. I think that's your wide receiver trio in cash.
How about on FanDuel? FanDuel, where guys like Jameson Williams are only like 5,200, not 3K. Are you building more lineups? Like, would you build this is cash, obviously, so you're playing double ups head to heads. CD's 10K. We have him on FanDuel projected at 19.8. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 17.6. So it's a 2-point median projection difference. 1K less. Are you still finding a way to fit both of them in on FanDuel?
Yeah, so I want to backtrack just really quick for running back. Kyron Williams is 9K, and so he's not a top priority cash game play for me on FanDuel because I'd like to try to get to CD instead. I don't think you can play CD and Amon-Ra to really on the same team. You have to pick one. And so I'm going CD in cash. It's terrifying. You don't get the full point per reception, but I think this is such an amazing spot that I'm going to go with CD as my a wide receiver one on FanDuel. But if you want to save the 1,000 and go Amon-Ra, I don't think that's a bad play at all. And then I think you have to punt with Jameson Williams at 5.2. He's like the best value, I think, on FanDuel.
I just want to make a comment, the difference between FanDuel and DraftKings, that for cash games, I mean, this applies to GPPs as well, is that because of the lack of bonuses and half-point PPR, touchdown equity is more important on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. And right now, the anytime touchdown prop for CeeDee Lamb is minus 160. Amon-Ra St. Brown is minus 100. So, like, there's a difference between 50.
Do you have Kyron Williams up?
Kyron Williams, let me see. Kyron Williams is minus 170.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So, like, to me, I would prioritize if I had a choice on FanDuel, I'd prefer Kyron Williams over Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, I agree. So really, to me, it's between Williams and CD. That's tough. Yeah.
But I just want to highlight that touchdowns matter more. That if you convert, remember, these are American odds. If you convert minus 160 into odds, that's like 62%. Amon-Ra St. Brown is 50%. So, like, that's 12 higher percentage points to score at least a touchdown. That on FanDuel, you prefer that more. While on DraftKings, yeah, of course you love touchdowns, but the bonuses matter more. So, like, if CD catches a touchdown, but Amon-Ra gets 9 receptions for 120 yards without the touchdown, Amon-Ra St. Brown could actually outscore CeeDee Lamb. So, like, if given the choice, I think on DraftKings, you're still playing both of them. And on FanDuel, you may only be able to play one of them. I would prioritize Lamb, then Williams, then Brown on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings, I don't think Kyron Williams becomes that third guy. Like, I almost prefer Pollard, and then not having to significantly punt. It really depends on what you're doing with your lineup. But TJ,
that's what I was gonna say. I think for cash and tournaments today, weirdly enough for cash too, lineup construction isn't going to be incredibly important with how you do this, because you're going to want CeeDee Lamb or Tony Pollard in cash. Like, you're not only choosing between the Lamb, St. Brown, and Kyron Williams. I think you also have to make sure, if I'm not going CD, if CD is not in my lineup, I need to make sure Pollard is in my lineup. If Pollard isn't one of my running backs, I probably should make sure that CD is going to be one of my receivers, because I think even in a cash game setting, because we know Dallas is going to score some points. Dallas has the highest total on the board. And so I think it's going to be really important to make sure we have one of those two guys.
For GPPs, I mean, obviously on DraftKings, you could get different by playing passing stacks of the Blizzard game of, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. But is it more likely, it seems like, just from a pricing perspective, that how many people are really playing Stafford, Puka, Cup lineups? Because it's kind of in that like mid-range that these guys aren't going unowned, but combinatorically, if the Rams put up 35 points or something, this game shoots out or something, that, like you mentioned before, David Montgomery, like, to me, like, that's the lineup. Stafford, Puka, Cooper, right? And then you run it back with Montgomery or Gibbs. And of course, you're sweating bullets when it comes to the Cowboys. But, I mean, truthfully, the Detroit Rams game has a higher total.
Yeah, I love getting to the Puka Nacua, Demarcus Robinson, Matthew Stafford stack. I'll play all three of them. And Nacua, Cup, Robinson. I'll play all three of them on DraftKings with Stafford. On FanDuel, maybe not, because you do have Demarcus Robinson priced up there. But the Rams are definitely my top full stack on DraftKings. On FanDuel, they're slightly behind the Buccaneers for me, just because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both going super low owned. But I also think we want to prioritize in tournaments another receiver in that game on FanDuel, and that's Devonta Smith. No A.J. Brown in this one. He should be seeing more targets, and I don't think Tampa's secondary is good enough that it's going to matter if they give him extra attention. Additionally, I think the very best salary-saving option at receiver on FanDuel specifically, on DraftKings, you got Demarcus Robinson, you got Jameson Williams, you got Josh Reynolds, lots of great options. On FanDuel, I think for tournaments, the best by far is Kez Watkins. Kez Watkins, I mean, Goddard will be the second most target receiver, but Kez Watkins is going to be the number 2 receiver for the Eagles against a terrible Tampa Bay pass defense. He's $4,400 on FanDuel. That's so cheap. That's like below the typical minimum for a receiver on FanDuel. So I think he is the best tournament salary saver on the slate. There's so much you can do on FanDuel if you throw in somebody for $4,400. And then the mid-range of receiver, I do really like so much as well. Instead of going all the way up to Lamb and St. Brown, as amazing as they are, they're also going to be super highly owned. I like Mike Evans, I like Nakua, I like Kupp, and I like Devonta Smith and Chris Godwin as my top options for tournaments.
Tim, for cash games, if you had to choose between one of the cheap receivers on DraftKings, so you got Robinson at 3,600, Jameson Williams 3,500, Khalil Shakir 3,400. If you could only play one in cash, which one would it be?
It'd be Robinson for me. I think he's the safest.
I think Robinson 1, Reynolds 2, Williams 3, Shakir 4. That's how I'd rank it.
Well, Reynolds is 3,800, a little bit more expensive. But if you take a look at the props, the prop market, DeMarcus Robinson has a higher reception prop, 10-yard higher receiving prop, and touchdown wise, he's plus 260. Jameson Williams is plus 240, but his receiving prop is 1 reception lower and 10 yards lower. So I think from a ceiling perspective, and if you're going to play a one-off receiver in GPP, I think I prefer Williams. But in cash games, I would agree with you, Tim, with Robinson. Let's go to tight end. Is there a difference between the sites? I mean, someone in chat is asking about, are we going double tight ends on FanDuel, Tim? What are we doing at tight end in comparison to the two sites? Because it may be different.
Yeah, so we do get Dallas Goedert on FanDuel at 61. He's only $100 different than Jake Ferguson, so you don't get huge savings. But I think if you can play Jake Ferguson, he's the clear best tight end on the slate. If you can't, I really like Tyler Higbee, assuming he suits up. I think he's going to, and I think you could conceivably go down to Freiermuth at 4.9 on FanDuel. Those would be my options for cash.
TJ, tight end.
Yeah.
Are you pairing just, playing? I mean, tight ends, truthfully, unless Ferguson or Goddard on FanDuel, like they have an outlier game, this could be the type of spot where, like, if you get a touchdown out of your tight end, you're fine. Which, if you're just relying on a touchdown, like any of these guys could catch one pass on some, 3 tight end set on the goal line. Are there tight ends that you're looking at that may be, totally cheap and fair, pretty unowned that you could get away with? Or you're more likely to just like Ferguson, Goddard, Higbee, Kincaid, the guys, Freiermuth, even guys that maybe have more of a shot at 5 for 50 rather than just a touchdown?
Higbee would definitely be my first choice of those cheap guys, but I do think there are some off-the-wall guys you can go with specifically in a stack. Wouldn't be playing them as a one-off, but I don't hate the idea of specifically in a stack. So one of those guys is Brock Wright, $4,700. James Mitchell is out. And Sam Laporta is quite injured, but playing. We don't know how he's going to fare. Maybe he's a full go. Maybe he's a decoy. Maybe he hurts himself in the first quarter. So I think Brock Wright at $4,700 is very interesting for tournaments. Cade Otton as a part of your Baker Mayfield stacks. I really like Dawson Knox with your Josh Allen stacks. I think is fully viable as well. And then Luke Musgrave, I think, is potentially viable as a one-off. He's going to be super low owned, and I think he could maybe start to reclaim his full start tight end one in that offense position that he had before he got hurt. He did say he expected to get an expanded workload this week compared to last. So I think he's potentially interesting for tournaments as well. But Higbee is my favorite. And then on DraftKings, it's still Higbee 1 and Ferguson 2. Musgrave, Wright, and Knox are the only other guys in my pool. And I think it's definitely not a 2 tight end week. Like, I don't think in 150 lineups, I don't think I'd play 2 tight ends on either side.
DST, Tim, for cash games. Are we we either paying up for the Bills or paying down for the Steelers? Are we just, if they're in the cold weather game, we're just doing that? Do we have the funds to even pay up for the Bills?
I think you do have the funds because there are those cheap wide receivers, and I'm playing Warren in cash also, so I do have the funds for the Bills. I also have the funds for the Cowboys as well. So probably my favorite though is the Bills.
DJ, any specific tournament GPP DSD takes other than plug in whoever fits and let variance be your friend?
Yeah, on DraftKings doesn't matter to me at all. Bills and Cowboys if I can, but if not, I don't really care. I'll play Steelers. I'll play Packers even. On FanDuel, I do think the Steelers are the clear top. Pardon me, clear top tournament defense. It's not going to be as bad, but it's not great weather. Josh Allen is known to turn it over. It's going to be cold, and they're the second lowest owned defense on the slate. So the Steelers, I think, are definitely the best tournament defense on FanDuel. Okay,
questions from the chat. Get them in. Lightning round. Get your questions in. We got 4 minutes, 3 minutes to lock. Beantown asks, any Fournette love in a positive game script? Is there any chance either for, obviously GPPs. TJ, would you even consider playing a Bills backup running back?
No.
Let's see. Blake is asking, Rod, this may be for cash, it may be just in general. On FanDuel, Aaron Jones or Tony Pollard? Tim.
Yeah, I saw that question. That's pretty tough. I think I'm going to lean with Aaron Jones, but they're both great.
I think it's more Pollard is more viable in that 1v1 on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings, only because of the price difference.
Yeah.
Luis Jose Lopez asks, okay, we're talking about Packers receivers. This is FanDuel. DJ, Watson, Wicks, Dobbs, or just play Brandon Cooks?
Just play Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
Do you play, okay, TJ, in a GPP lineup, if you're not playing Dak Prescott, do you play Brandon Cooks in a lineup that you're also playing CeeDee Lamb? Or are you viewing Brandon Cooks in the same way they're viewing in GPP, like the Lamb Pollard thing of like, Cooks does well, he takes away from everyone.
Only way I'm playing Cooks and Lamb together is if Prescott's my quarterback.
Broccoli Boy asks, English Muffin, which side is better, top or bottom?
I'd go bottom.
DJ has no English Muffin takes. So he's Canadian. What else would you expect?
No. Yeah, I'd put something in the middle. Eat it as a sandwich.
Butthole Jenkins asks, Kyron Williams or Puka DK in the flex? I'm assuming cash. I'm assuming cash. You definitely Tim playing Kyron over Puka.
Yeah, in cash. You're definitely playing Kyron.
And then I said that's exactly what I said. Kyron, cash, Puka tournaments.
If you're not what is the better breakfast bread? Because we're out of questions in the chat. Because someone asked, which side is better, English Muffin. So the choices for breakfast bread. Well, let's quickly go Higby or Kraft.
Higby.
We're Higby.
Higby, okay. Definitely.
I want to take care of the ones because we're just right before lock, and we're always on like a 30-second delay before people could actually hear us. So you got English muffins, you got croissants, right? You got toast, you got Texas toast if you want to consider the thicker toast. Like breakfast, you got biscuits, you got bagels, right? Like what would be the S tier for you? How would you rank the top 5 breakfast breads? Like not cash games or GPPs, just like if you had a choice, but the top 5 breakfast breads, how would you rank?
I'd go croissants, bagels, toast, biscuits, and Texas toast.
English muffins all the way at the bottom.
No, Texas toast is on the bottom for me.
Oh, well, you don't like thick Texas? Why don't you like thick Texas stuff?
I don't know. I'm just not into it. It's not my thing. Okay. I can't explain it.
Okay, TJ, what's your breakfast breads power ranking?
Depends what the rest of my meal is. It's all about lineup construction. You can't really just put a player out there on their own. It depends on the rest of your lineup. And so if I'm looking to make like a breakfast sandwich, I got my egg, I got my bacon or sausage, I got my cheese. I like a nice bagel. Like Devin said in chat, a nice everything bagel. That's something that Tim Hortons in Canada here does pretty well, is a nice breakfast sandwich, everything bagel, sausage, egg, cheese, delightful. If I'm just having like a traditional breakfast though, my bacon, my eggs over easy, some hash browns, either shredded or cubed. I do like my go-to at a restaurant is just like a rye, but the best case scenario would be like a nice fresh brioche.
The Sims say that Tim Hortons bagels not good. That's what the Sims say, at least. At least my Sims. Imagine getting a bagel anywhere else outside of New York. Like that.
What am I gonna fly to New York right now to get a bagel?
They're worth it, TJ.
I'll get a bagel. I'll get a bagel when I'm in New York, but it's not like I'm gonna never have bagels when I'm not there.
Like Lender's bagels, Thomas bagels, that's on the bottom. Dude, I'd rather burn Texas toast than eat that. Are you kidding me? Those aren't real bagels. Those are just circular shaped bread. That's all it is.
And it does wonders in a breakfast sandwich.
Well, I'd rather have a croissant. I'd rather have a biscuit. I'd rather have anything else. You might as well just give me one.
The everything bagel with the breakfast sandwich. It's delightful.
Oh, I like the everything part. Just the bagel is just. I mean, you could cut out. You could basically cut out. You could just get a loaf of bread, get the Texas toast and cut it into a circle with a little hole in the middle, and then sprinkle some everything. That's what all those bagels taste like. I'm just like, wow. Wait.
When was the last time you came to Saskatoon and had a bagel?
I guarantee you, there's no good bagels in Saskatoon. Guarantee you. I'm more along with Tim. At least Tim, it's like, okay, whatever. It's like I don't get your.
You asked me my rankings and said the food sucks where you live. Just don't eat it.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't even consider Tim Hortons bagels to be eligible. Like they're not even in the projections. They're not even like it's.
No, I'm not going there specifically for the bagels. I was referencing the breakfast sandwich though.
Okay, but you put the
as a whole.
As a whole, okay. So you're just going everything. If you had the possible best everything bagel, you'd prefer that. Not Tim.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, then that's fine. If we're just going by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so lock has hit everyone. And if you're not in TJ or Tim's contests, I would wish the best of luck to you, TJ. Any last words? Because obviously there's late swap available. The Dallas Green Bay game is locked. Anything from a GPP perspective that. If things are either going or don't go your way in this first game, what are you willing to do in the other two games or three?
On FanDuel, it's definitely take advantage of the low-owned Buccaneers. On DraftKings, don't be afraid to get maybe a little spooky with your tight end. If you need to get really cheap to pay up for somewhere else, play somebody like a Brock Wright. Who can maybe get you a touchdown if Laporta's not feeling great. The other one thing I'd say is when choosing between the cheap receivers, I do worry a little bit about Khalil Shakir because he's been more of a slot guy, particularly with them. And so I don't know how much he's actually going to just go directly into I don't know how much he's going to go directly into Gabe Davis's role. I think maybe they just might sub guys like Sherfield in there, just have them never get targets, and Shakir does his own thing. And so he'd be the one I'd worry about the most. And shout out Dean. Of course, the bagels are good in the place where we distribute more wheat than anywhere else in the world per capita. Not per capita, just in general. Just we're the best. Most wheat. Saskatchewan, wheat, football.
Tim, are you the most worried about Khalil? Is Khalil Shakir on this slate? Is he the Tim Hortons everything bagel of the slate? Where it's you look at the everything bagel and go, this could be good, but you're like, well, it's from Tim Hortons, and you can't really.
I don't think he's quite that bad, but I do agree with TJ. I'm a little bit concerned about him, and he's going to be highly owned, so I'm a little bit concerned about Shakir.
So if in cash games, if Lamb doesn't do well, if Aaron Jones gets hurt,
Switch to Pittsburgh pass catchers. Like nobody's gonna do that, so don't be afraid to just switch some over to Pittsburgh. That would be what I would do.
Okay, so that's our pre-lock show for today. Obviously, we'll be talking about NFL tomorrow. We got NBA coming up as well. So smash that like button. Yeah, TJ's putting out the the graphics on the bottom. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. Follow both TJ and Tim, especially in our Discord. Join that. RotoGrinders.com/Discord. I'll be on tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. Hit that notification bell. You'll always know when I go live. Talking about all things daily fantasy props and pick them at 11 o'clock Mondays through Fridays. But for Tim, for DJ, I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blenderhead, and that's been the NFL Pre-Lock Show here on RotoGrinders.com.